Hi, Gaming Bench here, and I am looking at Once Human running on high-end GPUs, the RTX 4070 and the RX 7900 GRE. Quick disclaimer here, the Nvidia cards are running in DX12 mode because that's required if you want to use DLSS. DX11 mode, I've tested it, it does run a little bit faster. AMD cards used to work in DX12 mode, but a recent game patch has screwed that up, and so they are crashing in DX12 mode right now. That'll probably get fixed, but as of September 29th, they are crashing. So I had to run in DX11 mode. Anyway, that's the 1080p medium results. You can see the 4070 is performing quite a bit slower than the RX 7900 GRE. That's not really surprising. The GRE is usually the faster card, and you can see the rest of the GPUs, how they stack up in the charts. Let's get on to the very high testing. So there is daytime and nighttime differences. I've measured that as well. I checked with one of the GPUs, and that seems to cause maybe about a 3% skewing. I think the nighttime does run a little faster, but it's not fully consistent, and you can't really control that unless you want to wait. Oh, I don't know, like I think it's about an hour cycle to go from 12 a.m. in the game to the next 12 a.m. So, you know, on average, you could be waiting a half hour to begin benchmarking if you wanted to do it at the same time every time, and I'm not going to do that. AMD's GPU, again, is going to be performing faster than the 4070. I mean, 200 FPS in DX11 mode compared to 137 FPS. I think the 4070 would probably get about 15 to 20% faster in DX11 mode, although minimum FPS doesn't improve on the Nvidia cards in DX11 mode, so keep that in mind. 1440p, very high setting. This is going to push the GPUs a little harder. I mean, they're both doing fine still. They're over 60 FPS, totally playable, and this isn't like a super intense game where it's like fast reaction, twitch shooting, and so, you know, if you're above 60 FPS, you're going to be totally fine. Maybe in some of the hairier combat situations with the big, whatever they're called, the infected starfall beasts, maybe frame rates might be lower than what I'm showing running around this little village here, but this is repeatable because it's a safe zone, and there was enough there to make it a good spot, I felt. And you can see 139 FPS on the 7900 GRE compared to 95 frames per second on the RTX 4070. Again, I wish the DX11, DX12 stuff, I didn't have to retest everything. You'll have to make your own decision between DX11 and DX12 if you're using an Nvidia card or an AMD card, but you can't do DLSS with DX11. You can do FSR though. We're at 4K maxed out settings now, and the cards are starting to struggle here. You know, the perfect 60 FPS isn't really happening all the time. You're definitely getting dips below 60 FPS. So this is where upscaling or frame generation can be helpful, except you can't do frame generation on the AMD GPUs because it only supports DLSS 3, not FSR 3. It's using FSR 2, which we'll get to next. But here's the overall settings. So the 7900 GRE actually does stay above 60 FPS. It's 71 average, 61 on the 1% lows, but the 4070 is down in the 52 average FPS with 47 lows. So that's where you would want to use upscaling. And I've got both upscaling and upscaling with frame generation for the 4070. So we'll start with just quality mode upscaling. This is 2.25x upscaling. So you're rendering at something like 1708 by 960 or 958. I don't remember the exact number, but you're rendering less than half the pixels and then using an algorithm to upscale. And AMD's algorithm runs on pretty much any GPU, whereas DLSS requires an RTX card. DLSS does look better. Like every time I've done careful comparisons, DLSS comes out ahead. That AI upscaling actually does work, but it requires a card that has NVIDIA's Tensor cores. Now here's DLSS with frame generation, and that gives you a nice boost to performance. If you go back and look at the latency, which you can see in the top left corner of the NVIDIA section, it shows latency. Latency does get worse with frame gen on. And that's because with FrameGen, you're basically rendering frame 1, rendering frame 3, and interpolating frame 2. So you won't see frame 2 until the game has already used the input to create frame 3. So you're basically adding a couple frames of latency. Anyway, overall performance, you can see the 4070 with FrameGen gets 92 FPS, comes out just ahead of the 7900 GRE with FSR upscaling. And without FrameGen, you're getting 77 frames per second. So overall, you're not getting a massive boost from either upscaling or FrameGen, but together they give a good result. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. Let me know what you think, what other games and GPUs you'd like to see tested, and we'll see you next time.